So we are going to be talking about making meaningful stories with video, family films. This is something that I've been really passionate about for years and years. I first started out as a photographer, and then I started to shoot video when my dad really pushed me to do it because he had always taken videos of us as kids. And I remember what it felt like every year when I was older to go back and watch the home videos from my childhood. And I honestly think that a lot of my memories are formed around what I watched in those videos. So I knew that once I had kids that I wanted to start to do that for them. And I have a music background. So my background is actually flute. I had a full scholarship to university on a flute scholarship. I was going to play in an orchestra. I was a singer. Music was life for me up until I moved to Australia. And the only reason it changed was because I had to get a job. But I'm got married and fell in love with my husband, and everything else goes out the window. So when I started to shoot video and I started to then pair that with music, it was kind of like my two worlds came together finally, and it was just the most incredible feeling. And this project that I at first had thought this will just be for my kids because my dad did it for me. So, and I was a photographer, had this camera that shot pretty good quality video. What I thought was going to just be for me ended up being for other people. And it absolutely changed my life. It changed how I was perceived as a photographer within my community. I was no longer a photographer that was doing the same sort of offering as everyone else around me. I was someone who was offering something completely different. And it absolutely catapulted me within my community to begin with. And then, as that has grown and it led to other photographers being interested in it and then teaching, and here we are today. So that's a little bit of a background. I'm going to show you a little bit of, we're going to watch a couple of videos now.
Courtney. Courtney. Hi. She's a dwarf. She's one of the 7 dwarfs. Y'all just play and have a good time. That's fun. Have fun and don't get introduced. Okay? Okay, something drink. I said go under.
Guys, there's a lot of videos like this of me from my childhood. And there is nothing better than having them. And one thing that I feel like is missing from all of this are my parents. Because even though like I have bits and pieces of them, there's so much more of me. And that's something I'm very conscious about when I'm making family films, because it's very easy to focus on the child, but it's the parents as well for that child that they're going to want to be able to see later. Today, more than ever before, video and photo is intertwined. Not only do we work together side by side, but with every year that goes by, more and more artists are finding themselves with a foot in both doors. As photographers, we inherently tell stories, but there is a limitation to the storytelling that's capable and a still image. Video is the way that we can dive in and tell a deeper, more meaningful story, because it's so hard to do that in a still image. And this is not to put anything about a still image down, because they absolutely have a place. And I obviously still take them. Like, I love an amazing photo, especially a storytelling photo. But there's just so much more that we can do with video, and it's obvious because of the way, if you look at the way that things have changed in the social media area, we've gone from all still images to practically everything that you see is video now. So before we dig into all the ways that you can tell stories with video, here are some things you've probably heard, or maybe you've said yourself at some point. I'm worried that I won't be good enough. I know I've said that before. I don't have the gear that I need. I haven't got the time to learn a new skill right now. So why bother? I want to show you this video that is from the Museum of Modern Art. If you've done my courses in FilmingLife before, you've probably seen this. But it is a really good, it's just a short little bit, but it really shows you what it's like to go back and watch, for someone to go back and watch the videos. Just watch.
Around a little bit and it's all there. I would say home movies are like time machines, kind of. It's like letting you interact with your parents as adults.
We begin to see that in other people's home movies. Yeah. When you see it in your own, you see it in other families' home movies.
Sure. I mean, just with all the different home movie days, one of the things that's so amazing is when people haven't seen this reel ever, and they get so emotional because they've never seen their grandmother moving around as a living person, or their grandfather, or somebody that was only existed as a still for them. It's overwhelmingly emotional.
That's your mom's parents?
And those are my great-grandparents.
This is a film transfer machine. And we're transferring films to files so we can watch them on computers and share them with people.
So this is your family, Ron?
Yeah.
Is that your mother?
Yeah, that's my mother. See, my mother died young, not long after these films were made, actually, about 5 years later. So my younger brother never really knew her. He only knew her, he only understood their relationship from these films.
That's great. Yeah. Is that him?
No, that's me.
Yep, that is my dad. And both of my grandparents died when my dad was a teenager, so even before he and my mother met, so this is all I know of my grandparents. We had hundreds and hundreds of reels. I know, and it's a significant reason why I became a film archivist.
There's still a lot of home movies to be discovered, I think, because there's still, when you think of the generation, they're still in the attics and the basements and stuff.
Does that haunt you?
A little bit. It makes me a little bit sad, but it's excited at the same time that somebody, but you just want to get the word out that, like, don't throw them away, because one of the main reasons we started Home Movie Day was we found out people were throwing away their film, and we wanted to teach them that you shouldn't do that.
I would be happy to dedicate the rest of my career as a moving image archivist to working on this body of film. And there are enough people working on the other kinds of film. This is a body of film that needs to be actually recovered and preserved. So if you're watching this, go to your closet, go to your basement, go to the attic and see what you can find.
And also back up your phone.
And don't throw them away once you get them transferred.
Back up your phone, right?
And then back that up.
Yeah.
And then send it to a
All right,
friend.
is that good?
Okay.
So I feel like that shows you the power of 30 years from now, 40 years from now, 50 years from now. What's different about us today than those people back then? The only difference is that technology is so far advanced that the quality is so much better, but there's nothing that stops us from taking that idea, that concept as photographers and expanding on it. When I was starting out, I was like, wedding videographers were making films for people getting married at weddings. And I would ask myself, how come it's just the wedding day? Like, why is everyone just focused on the wedding day? And then that's it. Like, there's no one else is doing video after the wedding day. And I think that sometimes it's easy to get into this thought process of, well, people ready to spend money for their weddings, so they're gonna pay for a wedding film. How do I get them to pay for a family film? Well, it's the same as, how do you get them to pay for family photos? I would argue that these days a family video is even more, well, it's going to become even more valuable to people, because the generation of people having babies now, becoming parents now, they have way more footage of their childhood than we ever had, or people older than us had ever had. And so it's only going to grow and grow and grow. It is an industry that is growing and growing and growing. And there's so much opportunity. And all it comes down to is educating people about it and showing, people's reactions. It's really not until you've created a video and then you show a family and you see their reaction to it that it hits home, because we get very emotionally invested in the quality of it and like how we composed everything and how we shot it and how we put it together and the storytelling and all of that. But for them, it's so much deeper than that. And they are so deeply connected to it, and it hits them in a way that we could never understand. But by watching their reactions, it helps us to see why. We have the ability as photographers with this gear in our hands that already shoots really good quality video. We have the ability to press pause for other people. So don't let anything get in the way. If you're holding back from doing it because you feel afraid of not being good enough or not having the gear that you need or anything else, like any kind of worry or self-doubt that you have, that's a bit of that is your ego saying to you that you can't put something out there that isn't perfect. And I'm here to tell you that that's wrong. Now, this film I'm about to show you is of this mother, there were a group of friends who contacted me and asked me to create a film for her. She had been diagnosed with melanoma when her daughter was born. She then went into remission. The cancer came back. Her daughter was 4 years old at the time that we filmed this. It took 2 years for us to get to the point of filming this. And the mom passed away 3 weeks later. So this right here is what I feel like everything that I've done has led up to. It's being able to create things like this for people that are really good quality, but they don't have to be perfect. If you watch this film, there's a lot of imperfections in there, but the heart of it is there. And what it gives this girl is absolutely priceless.
It was a Monday morning and we went to the hospital on Sunday night. They said, "You're not quite ready, you can go home." And I said, "No, I'm going to stay." And then you were a little bit impatient and you wanted to come out straight away. And then when you came out, Daddy cried, and then I cried, and then you cried. And when they wrapped you up, you looked like a little dolly, and they gave you to me, and I said, "That can't be mine. She's too pretty. She's too perfect." A couple of days later, we took you home. I put you on the lounge, and I just stared at you. I thought, "Oh, what am I going to do now?" And then we played every day since then, didn't we? Yeah? And I told all my friends at work that I was going to meet my new boss. Do you know who that is? You! Are you the boss? Everyone said you were a very, very pretty little baby. And you were good because you were a good sleeper. Do you remember being a baby? Do you like being a baby or a big girl?
Big girl.
Big girl. Why is that?
I get to do more stuff with me.
What do you like doing?
Cooking.
Cooking. Yeah, that's fun, especially when we make cake.
I like singing with you.
Oh, what song do you like? In the car?
Yeah.
I like singing with you in the car too. You're a good singer. And do you like doing colouring and puzzles and games and playing Switch? What else? You like going to school? Do you know when you go to school they miss you? But that's okay. Around and around the garden.
Like a teddy bear. 1 step, 2 step, 3 under there.
What? You love me? Oh. You like cousins? I like it when you wave to me on the side. Yeah. Do you know what I like the most? I can't believe I forgot. When you come and wake me up in the morning and you come in and give me snuggle pills. Yeah. And you snooze a button. Talk.
I
Oh, go on.
know.
How about you tell me a story and I'll come listen.
The princess and the dragon, and the dragon was the princess's pet, and the princess was called Sparkle, and the dragon was called Fire.
Maybe making a commitment. Okay. Listen to Twinkle Twinkle.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
What am I?
You're a star.
Oh, like a diamond. Nice. Your necklace.
Is my star?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good star?
Mm-hmm. It's got a special bit in it.
Can I see your star? Wow. Can you see my star?
Yep.
This is my flower. 5 and 5 a flower.
That's a flower.
5 and 5 a flower.
Very nice.
I want you to take a second and put yourself in that little girl's shoes and think about the difference between having something like that and having a gallery of photos or even a shoebox of printed photos. Think about what the difference of that would make for you. Four ways that I believe video will enhance your photography sessions. When you start to shoot video, you will become better at shooting photos because you inherently have to become a better storyteller. You have to get better at getting your exposure right in camera. You have to get better at getting color right in camera. As soon as you start to shoot video, your process of editing photos will become quicker. You'll learn to wait for the decisive moment rather than chasing it. This is something that I used to do a lot, where I would move around a whole lot, but shooting video has really forced me to stay still and wait. It's easier to make a whole bunch of really good photos out of a moment. You can manufacture a gallery of photos to look like everyone is completely happy and everything is great, and it's easy to do that. It's so much harder to do that with video. So you learn to wait instead of chasing, and you'll become more present and observant, and you're able to start to notice things a little bit more, just the subtleties, the nuances, emotion, people's faces, their expressions, the way they touch their family members, the looks between them. You just become so much more present and observant. through shooting video because it forces you to. And you become a better storyteller because the more that you shoot and then take that footage and lay it down on a timeline and try to create a story out of it, the more you realize you don't have what you need, because then you think to yourself, gosh, I wish I had spent more time working on a better beginning or had more footage, or if I had this type of footage, I'd be able to create a better beginning to the story. And it helps you become better at that the next time you go and shoot. This is why I always recommend to people when they start to shoot video, don't just shoot a bunch of video and then wait for months before you edit it. Shoot and then edit, and then shoot and then edit. That's how you get better quickly. Also, you're going to stand out. You're going to stand out in your market. You're going to stand out against other photographers that are around you, and people will know that you're the one to go to for videos of their family. So how would you get started, and how do you introduce this to your clients? Practice this on your family or your favorite client. So I always like to start, I started with my family to begin with my kids. And then I found that they were really fast. And a lot of times my youngest at the time would run up towards me, and I would have her on camera, and then all of a sudden she's coming towards me and I couldn't, like, she wasn't on the camera anymore. And I found that frustrating. So what I did was I moved on to my photography clients, my favorite clients, and offered them if we would add on half an hour to their session, and I would do video for them for free during their photography session. And that's honestly as simple as how it was that I got started. I just picked my clients that I knew already I didn't have to work too hard with, because they were already really engaged with their kids and they were already really playful. And at that time, I was doing a lot more shoots that were more lifestyle, like in a park kind of thing. And I was definitely directing more at that time for my photography clients. And so I knew that picking ones that were the most, like I didn't have to direct them as much, and then the ones that were the most easygoing would make it easier on me to get video of them. So I would take photos and then I would switch over to video. Once I felt like I'd gotten enough, I would switch over to video, and then I would just start doing it that way. And that way there was no pressure if it didn't turn out very good, or I didn't feel like I had to create, equal of both. Video was very much an add-on at the time. It was not the full main thing. So they had booked me for photos. I was getting paid for the session. I spent an extra 30 minutes and worked on video during that time. You can offer a slideshow with the short video clips mixed between still images. This is another way that I started, because it's even just little bits of video is better than nothing. And people, you can often surprise them with this and they're like, oh, wow, that was really cool. And so a slideshow, if you don't feel like you got enough video clips to put something together, you can always do a slideshow where you mix it in with the still images. You can offer something like a short 60-second video with each of the photo sessions. So this might be, you get all of your main important shots to begin with, and then you spend a bit of extra time, like 20 or 30 minutes afterwards, and you just focus on the video. So that's another way of sort of spreading it, between the two. If you're not comfortable switching back and forth, you could always get the photos done and then add on the video after, and then make a short 60-second video with that. You could spend, that's exactly what I spend 20 minutes during each photo session shooting video that you can use to create promo videos. So this is another really good idea for just with every session that you do, you shoot a little bit of video, and then you take that and you combine all those videos together, and you use that for Mother's Day promos, Father's Day promos, Grandparents' Day promos, Christmas, any kind of holiday, anything that you can do. You can take short clips from 5-10 sessions, put them together into a 60-second video, and you have some promo videos for your business, whether that's something that then you use to book films off of or you use to book photo sessions off of, doesn't really matter. It works for both. Constantly remind people in your marketing that you're offering video. So make sure that you're always talking about it. People have to see a brand. How I think that the saying used to be 7 times, but I think it's changed. I think it's more now. People are bombarded with marketing and they forget things. So you have to constantly remind people that you're shooting video, you're offering video, you're doing video. If it's something that you want to do and you're really passionate about it, like me, and you want it to be your main business, you've got to go into all of your marketing focus on that. And even if you're not booking clients, you've got to be doing those shoots and showing them, constantly showing them. It's a lot of work to begin with, but that does end up paying off in the long run, because people will start to see, and it does take a while for people to come around to the idea, because it's new. And it's also, you have to remember that it's different from a photography session, because people have to be more vulnerable when they are in a video. Like you can't just stand perfectly and pose perfectly. And like, even the ones that are candid and lifestyle, a lot of times, like, they still know how to stand and they still know how to make themselves look really good. And with video, it can be scary because they think it's not all going to be perfect, or it's not all going to look as good. You as the filmmaker, it's your job to teach them that that's not A, important, and B, the case, because you are still making sure that they're shot in a way that is flattering, and you're making sure that you are focusing on the moment and not what everyone looks like. I mean, there's a million ways that you can phrase this in your marketing, but it's showing them, like I was talking about earlier, it's not until you see people's reactions, film people's reactions to watching their videos, play those on your social media. Reaction videos, if you've seen, lots of wedding filmmakers do this, like reaction videos of their couples watching their films. You can do that with families too. Have them watch their film. Even better, to think about doing this years from now as well. So like having a child watch a film from their, like if you did a film for them 5 years ago, having them 5 years later watch that back. That's an idea for future. Obviously can't do that now, but just things to think about. You can help people see the value in it in those ways. All right, so 3 key elements that you should focus on when making any video. Story, first and foremost. Story. Sound design, second. They come very much hand in hand. And emotional impact. So nowhere in there do I say anything about color grading or 4K or anything else. It's all story, sound design, emotional impact. You can get away with an average quality image if you have amazing quality sound. You can't get away with an amazing quality image and average sound. Doesn't work. Sound is so important. It's absolutely crucial. I'm going to show an example of the Harula family, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the planning for the story beforehand, and then the editing and the sound design after, and then we'll watch the film. So this client booked a photo session with me first, and then after we had an initial consultation, she just expressed that she was sort of interested in a video but wasn't really sure, and I talked to her about it, and she upgraded to the film. She told me that they speak Indonesian at home, and would that be okay? And I was not sure about it because I've never filmed a family speaking a foreign language the whole time, so I didn't know how that was going to go. But I was willing to give it a try, and I suggested that we maybe would have a conversation afterwards if I felt like I was unsure about anything. Could I send things to her and ask her to tell me what they said? And she was like, of course. So we worked out a plan for if I felt, because her concern was, could I edit that footage, not understanding the language. Client wants to feel warm and fuzzy and nostalgic when she watches her film. That was one thing. She was unsure about filming at home because they lived in a rental house and it wasn't important to the story. And I really like shooting at people's houses. I don't push it, like I don't force it. I will often give people the option to book an Airbnb if they want to do that, if they don't want to shoot at home. But she and I talked, and I assured her that it wouldn't matter what the house looked like because it wouldn't be about the house. And so she came around and decided that we would film at home. She wanted me to capture as much audio as possible of her daughter. What she said was, Lana is a bit shy to new people. It takes her a while to get used to new people. My concern for the session is that she would be too shy to be herself and won't be as talkative as she would normally with us. I'd like you to include Lana's voice as much as possible in the video. I would love to capture her current speaking level on film. It would be adorable to look back in the future. So I knew audio was super important. I took my Stereo Mic X, which I don't have on hand at the moment. And so it's a stereo mic and has it captures sound all the way around. So instead of a shotgun mic, which just captures the sound that you're pointing the camera at, the stereo mic captures sound in all directions. And the downside of that is that it can get very busy with noise if there's a lot of things happening at the same time. So say, for example, someone's like washing dishes or doing anything like that. So I always prep clients beforehand not to do that. But I knew that it would be important because if I'm pointing my camera at mom and Lana is talking and she's beside me, a microphone that's shooting that way, or that's capturing a shotgun mic that's just capturing the audio from this direction, wouldn't be as good as one that's capturing audio in all directions, right? So that's the reason why. Our plan was to do origami and then plant and paint pots, make the bed together, feed birds at a park nearby, and then walk to the beach. All very simple things, really basic. You don't have to do anything fancy with your families, especially with families with little kids like this. Sometimes when you're working with older kids, you do need to maybe just do some more active things. Older kids aren't going to be interested in making the bed together, but a toddler will be. And then when it came to sound design, I wanted to make sure, so I went in and filmed the family, and it went really well. I decided this time I was not going to shoot in log, so I didn't shoot in log. I shot in a standard picture profile. I took that, I took my 35mm with a macro, like it's macro as well. My Canon R, and I took a 28-70, and that's all I shot with. And it turned out really good. And I'll tell you in a minute what some of the challenges were. So I knew that I wanted to choose, there was a lot of audio. I knew I wanted to choose an ambient instrumental song so that the voices could shine. I wanted the voices to lead the story, even though I didn't understand what they were saying. I wanted to listen for natural pauses, phrasing in Indonesian, and then send to mom for help if I wasn't sure. Maybe I would need to add captions, I don't know. Captured a lot of giggles and Lana talking, and I knew I needed to include a lot of that. One thing that we did that wasn't talked about before was we captured them measuring her height, so I knew I wanted to include that. I didn't do a very good job of getting a clear beginning to the session. A lot of times I'll rely on light to help me with that storytelling of the beginning, middle, and end. And I didn't stay there long enough to have a real solid ending. The footage at the end it's so bright because I think the sun didn't set for another like hour and a half or hour. And so it wasn't really a natural progression. And because I didn't get there early enough and there wasn't like the house wasn't super meaningful to them, I was not sure how I was gonna open and close this film. And so I had to really troubleshoot this. And what I ended up doing was taking the beach footage and then bookending that so that it was kind of almost like foreshadowing what was happening at the end. And then I captured a lot of really cool dust because when they were making the bed and they were playing around with that, there was amazing light, and there were these dust particles that were just floating around. And I captured a lot of that to use for B-roll, and I used that as the dust for transitions. Something that was specific, which I don't have written here, but that the client said was that she didn't want a lot of filler footage, what she called filler footage in the film. So she didn't actually want a lot of B-roll. And I was surprised by the request because I've never had a client actually say that to me before. But I also was like, oh, okay, I get that. Like she didn't want a lot of I guess, extraneous sort of footage. And you do see that in a lot of films. Like people, sometimes I watch films and I'm like, where are the people in this film? Like, there's not a lot. There's a lot of B-roll in here, but I was very mindful of that. And so I felt like all of the B-roll that I used was part of the story. And so the dust worked well for that, I think. Okay, so we'll watch this film.
Mama,
Dana,
I will leper.
Mama lempar. Lana,
Mama,
ya. Apa Lana?
kita gantiannya.
Kita
Gantian apa?
Matanya.
Terus
Ayo, siap.
siap? Siap apa? Hah? Siap pukul? Oke. 1, 2, 3.
Mana duluan?
Lana duluan ya. Lagi. 1, 2, 3.
Oh iya, oke.
Oke. Mama roll enggak? Mama roll enggak?
Iya.
Mama roll. Mana sih? Mana roll? Roll. Kamu jadi burrito aja. Mama makan ya? Nyam. No? Nggak mau.
Bawa makan aja anak.
Mau parachute? Boom! 1, 2, 3. Mana Lana? Lana mana? Lana mana?
Hilang namanya. Siapa ya?
Tahu di sini. Mau bot nggak? Mau bot nggak? Hop. Ayo diangkat ya. Mau tiduran apa enggak?
Satu. Dua.
Last one ya. Last one ya. Waduh. Aduh, beratnya kamu nih. Kamu beratnya berapa ini? Beratnya berapa ini? 3,5. Umurnya 3,5.
Pakai biru buat gambar apa? Langit. Langitnya yang orange. Banyak?
Untuk apa? Kan. Berbeda itu.
Apa bedanya?
Yang ini kan?
Ke dalam, ke dalam, ke dalam. Sini ada garis yang kecil ini juga. Iya.
Yang warna biru ya.
Yang atas. Oh, kayaknya kecil sekali ini. Tulisin punya mama juga. Gimana tulisnya? M terus U.
I intentionally cut between the origami and the bubbles because I wanted it to feel like a memory. And if you notice that I'm sort of focusing on her and her face and her eyes, and as she's working on this, I'm kind of trying to put the viewer in the mindset of what her memories of her parents are. That's why I chose to edit it in this way.
Oh. Yang bener dong. Kakinya ke bawah ini, kamu jangan di bawah ya. Oke, udah. Oh, sekarang kamu di sini mana?
Oh, itu dia tuh. Ntar gue muncul lagi.
Sekarang hari ini tanggal berapa? Tanggal berapa? 6. Oh, tepat tuh. Tinggi. Ya dulu kamu waktu umur 1. Umur 1 kamu tuh masih baby sama segini. Itu masih baby belum umur 1.
Ini masih umur papa.
Ini masih belum umur 1, masih baby. Berapa ya itu ya?
Mohon maaf.
Berapa ya dia?
Maaf. Bulan.
May 10 bulan. September 21.
Enggak umur 2 ya.
Ini ya,
Indonesia.
kedua ya. Lana, kamu udah pergi.
Burung.
Sometimes I think that the absence of audio can be just as effective as including it. And at first, I was worried because the waves at this beach are so big that it's impossible to have any sort of audio. But then when I started to put it together, I thought, actually, this actually feels more nostalgic without any video, not in slow motion, but in a normal speed. It feels more nostalgic in that way. And so it worked out really well. So to strengthen your storytelling overall, when you're editing, I want you to ask yourself these questions. Is this clip moving my story along, or is it dragging out a moment that we could move on from? Will my viewer understand what's going on in the story, or will it just be the client that gets it? I think that there is a fine balance that we have as storytellers between just giving the client everything because you know they're going to get it and they're going to love it no matter what, and presenting a product that we can then use to continue to promote our services. And so we have to find that balance between creating something that's going to, is it just going to make the client emotional when they see it? Is it just going to connect with the client, or is it going to connect with a wider audience? The goal for me is that it connects with both. If you can tick both boxes, then you're going to find yourself more successful at getting people to book your films. What is my intention with this story? How do I want people to feel when they watch it? This is a question that I ask on my client questionnaire. I ask them, what do you want to feel when you watch your photos when you watch your film and look at your photos later? What do you want to feel? And that gives me a good sense of how I want to make everyone feel when they watch it. Because again, I'm trying to tick both boxes. Am I leaving any questions unanswered in my edit? If your edit is leaving someone asking where that came from, why that happened, what that did, then unless that's intentional, that can be more of a distraction and pull them out of it than it can be bringing them in and getting them invested and making them want to book it. So only as you're watching it, it's really, really helpful to get feedback on your films once you put them out there or once you finish editing them, either before or after you give them to the client. Ideally before, but ask people for feedback. It doesn't even have to be someone who knows what they're doing. Just send it to someone, ask what they feel when they watch it. But it's even better if you send it to someone who knows what they're doing. Obviously, they can give you a lot more direct feedback. And I'm going to leave you with this. If your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. I like this quote a whole lot. And what this says to me is, when I was starting out and I was doing this, I didn't think anyone would book it. Nobody was doing it. It wasn't a thing. And then I knew that if I didn't do it, that I was actually doing others a disservice. So I let that keep me going. That was my motivation. And it was scary because I knew that I could just do the easy thing and thing that everyone else is booking and the thing that everyone else is doing. I could do that. I could easily do that. But I don't, because I believe in this so much and it's paid off for me. I saw a couple of questions already. So let me just come back. Wonder how many of us have videos dancing to the same song. Sorry, I should have told you to bring tissues for sure. Love the conversation about the clients in Germany because, yeah, I really think that it's a matter of showing people, and just constantly showing up. So Oliver emailed me with a question. Oliver, do you want to hop on and we can chat? This was a
Yes,
question.
I'm here.
Hello.
No.
This was a question you had about gear. So I'll just read out what you emailed me. You're practicing, you've got a rangefinder and a point and shoot with a good fixed manual lens. You were talking about selling your equipment and getting a new camera and a 35 millimeter. And is there a camera more recommended for your style of work? You mentioned you have some Nikon lenses. Are they mirrorless lenses?
No, they're the old style.
Okay. I don't know whether they'll work with a mirrorless, but you might be able to get a converter. And so if they're for DSLR, then they would probably work with a converter. And I would lean towards the ZF. You had options ZF or the Z8. So I would probably lean towards the ZF just because I think it's lighter than the Z8. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I don't shoot Nikon, but I did look up both these cameras, and that would be my suggestion to you based on what you've been shooting, just because it's going to be a lighter weight. The only difference from a video quality point of view is that the Z8 shoots 8K and the Z7 shoots 4K, but 4K is more than enough. In the Creative Live course, you mentioned that you shoot with a 35 1.4 and at times with a tilt shift. Would a 1.8 also be adequate, or is the 1.4 the better long-term choice? 1.8 is totally adequate. Like it's the 1.4 is good if you're in a lot of situations where you're shooting in low light. But after doing the Creative Live course, I have been through multiple different cameras, and at the moment I'm shooting Fuji now, so I'm on entirely different lenses. But the last year so not this past year, but the year before that, I was shooting on the EOS R and a 28 to 70 f2. So I was shooting on an f2 for ages, and shooting with a zoom, which I was not doing when I filmed the Creative Live class either. And so, yeah, I think the aperture, either one is totally fine. I would choose the one that you feel is within your budget and works best for you. Are fully manual lenses an advantage or not really? A fully manual lens is an advantage if all you're doing is video, but if you're also doing photos, I would say no, because you really want for photos to have that autofocus capability. So I would not go fully manual, just because there's so many advantages to having that autofocus if you're shooting photos as well. And you also said it seems that a tilted screen on the back of the camera would be better than a screen that flips out, as you'll continue to be in the same line of sight and movement as the camera. Is this in practice so, or are the flip out screens an equally good choice? I wish that I had the option of just a tilt, but all of the ones that I've used so far have the flip out and I just adjust to it. I don't love it. On the Fuji XT series, you have that's like the tilt. It gives you this tilt out from being, you know, directly, and I love that on this. But then if this doesn't flip out, right? But I'm shooting on the H2S now and this flips out, but it doesn't make it any harder. It's just more, sometimes it gets in the way when I'm holding my camera and I'm really trying to pull tight against the camera strap, and the camera strap can kind of get in the way of the view sometimes, I find. But it's one of those things that I've learned to just sort of deal with. It's definitely better than what I started out with, which was no tilting at all. So I think, you know, it's just one of those things where both are good, but I wouldn't let that be a reason for choosing one over the other. I would choose, like, I would go with like whatever the specs for video quality are, you know, above the LCD screen. But yeah, so I think the ZF would be a good choice for you. Does that help?
Great. Yes. Super. Thank you so much for your.
Amazing.
Just one quick question in the film that you just showed us,
Yeah.
when they were measuring the height of the little daughter,
Mhm.
I saw that there was a quick focus that almost seemed that you had to hit the focus button because it was
Mhm.
spot on, or are
Mhm.
you so good that you managed to do that?
No, in that film, I was using this lens, and I think at that time it was probably autofocusing because I had it set up. So this is the 35 1.8 macro, and I think that I had it and I pressed on her face in that moment. So I wasn't manually focusing, because when I switched to mirrorless, I learned to kind of start to work with the autofocus capabilities that the mirrorless lenses were giving. DSLR lenses, when you try to use autofocus, are just absolute rubbish. So I started to experiment with different ways, and I go back and forth between. So I'll turn it off and turn it on, and sometimes I'll have it on, and sometimes I'll manually focus with the focal ring. But it just depends. But that's probably what I did in that instance. I often will also sometimes use back button focus. So I might press the back button to lock focus on the subject, and then maybe move from there or make slight manual adjustments from there as well.
Cool. So it's really worth then getting a little bit of the newer equipment with the mirrorless lenses if they have this better capability.
It can help for sure. Absolutely. Yep. All right, so I'm just gonna hop in and see. There's some questions that have come up. Do you use a separate microphone of sorts or just the in-camera mic? I use a separate microphone. It's the Rode Stereo X. I wish that I knew where I put it. Maybe it's Here it is. I have so many bags under my desk. This is it. So this is the Rode Stereo Mic X. This is what I use for all of my sessions. Definitely not the in-camera mic. Although, if you're just starting, there's nothing wrong with the in-camera mic, but it'll make a big difference if you use something that's a bit more, even just like a small upgrade to the Rode Mic X, which is it's the Rode Micro. It's a shotgun mic, but it's definitely better than in-camera mic. Do you always manually focus, or do you use the camera's automatic focus features? So that was what we just talked about. You probably asked that earlier. I do both, and it really depends now on what lens I'm using, because my favorite lenses to use now with the camera that I'm using is this massive beast, which is a tilt shift, and this is all manually focused. A tilt shift is, see how it sort of slides off of the thing? It's like the Lens Baby, but much different. So I manually focus with that. It gives like a slice of focus through the frame. And then even with some of the mirrorless lenses, I'll manually focus with them too, but I find they're a pain because of the focus by wire system. If you could just keep on turning and turning that focal ring, and it's so annoying. So I've kind of given up on trying to manually focus with them, and a lot of times I'll just use the autofocus. I found that the autofocus on the Fuji H2S is a lot better than the Canon R, and so I feel a lot more confident in using it than I did with the Canon R. I have a 50mm 1.2 RF lens, which is not a mirrorless lens, and I will always manually focus with that because autofocus with it sucks. So I do both, just depends on what lens I'm using. How do you fluctuate between knowing when to shoot slow motion and regular speed? I shoot everything at a high frame rate, and I just decide when I'm going to slow down later. And how do I decide that? It's a gut feeling. It comes from a lot of practice of playing around, trial and error, seeing what works and what doesn't. Sometimes I think that, like I was talking about earlier, where I could have taken that beach footage and had it slowed down, but when I laid it on the timeline and I had it at normal speed without the sound, it just felt right to me. And so a lot of times I just use that to help make my decisions. It's just sort of playing around with things. It comes in the edit though later. I used to worry about it. And if you've watched my Creative Live class, you'll know that at that time it was like, shoot this frame rate for normal speed and shoot this for slow motion. And the reasoning a lot of times behind that, or the whole reason behind that, was that my 5D Mark III only shot a high frame rate at 720p. So when I would take that into Premiere Pro and slow it down, it looked horrible. Sorry. And when I would bring it in Premiere Pro and not slow it down, it looked horrible. But now that I can shoot a high frame rate at 1080p and a standard frame rate at 1080p, I drop them both on the timeline. I can't tell a difference. So to me, it's not worth the stress of changing it in camera back and forth anymore. And so now I will just shoot everything at 50 frames per second because I'm in Australia. For you guys, that would be 60, and then change it down to 30 or 24. Do you have a system in mind for capturing photo in addition to your video, or anything which reminds you to do both without one taking away from the other? I've seen you offer both to your families. I do. Generally, I will shoot video as a priority first, and then I'll stop shooting video and I'll capture photos when I feel like I've gotten enough video. I will say that I am offering less and less photos since changing to mirrorless, because with all of the advantages that mirrorless gives me in terms of video quality and autofocus and all the other features, it makes it a lot harder to switch between video and photos, because now the settings change between the two, which for some people is an advantage, for others it's not. For me, it's not. And so I find it harder to do that. So I'm just a bit more careful about when I do. I'm more selective about when I stop and take photos. But generally my system is I'll shoot until I feel like I've gotten enough, and then I switch to photos, and then however many photos I get is what I get from the session. I don't promise a lot. I think I only promise 10 now. Lauren asked, I missed the beginning of the call. Will this call be sent out to rewatch? Will you send the link out via email to sign up? I will send the link out via email. I don't plan on sending out the call to be rewatched. There is a Nikon 40mm 2.0 lens for mirrorless that's perfect for filming. It's a real bargain, also really light and small. Yes, wonderful. Oliver, that might be helpful for you to know. There's a 40mm 2.0 lens for mirrorless. I'm actually thinking about getting a Viltrox 40mm 1.2 lens for my Fuji H2S. Hi, interested in why you moved to Fuji. So main reason is it's a lot more cost effective. I had upgraded from the Mark IV to the EOS R before the R5 and the R6 came out. And I didn't want to spend $5,000 on the R5. So I was like, well, what are my other options? I had the X-T2 and I had several Fuji lenses already, and it made more sense from a cost point of view to go the H2S. I did a lot of research on the video quality comparing the Canon R5 and the H2S, and they're very comparable. And I just decided to make the switch because it's so much lighter. And there's just nothing that beats that. So my back was killing me, my wrists were killing me, and the Fuji it was, and I have not looked back. It's been amazing. Preferences between prime or zoom lenses. Oh my gosh, I didn't know. I love both for different reasons. I probably would choose, if I could only choose one, I would choose a prime, but the zoom is really fun. If that film that we just watched, that whole bedroom scene was shot on the 28-70 f2 Canon zoom lens. And it was crucial for that room because it allowed me not only to get far back in like a wide shot, but also really close up shots. And I loved that. So I think it's such a personal preference. It's so subjective. Where is your camera strap from? My camera strap is from Aspen Willow, I think is this one. Yep, aspenwillow.com. She's on Etsy. That's this one. And then I also have this one, which is from Style Pose Click, which is in Australia. Oh. May have missed you talking about this. Why not mix over a shotgun mic style? Oh, the mic. I did talk about this, but that stereo mic instead of a shotgun, because I like to capture the audio from both sides of the microphone instead of just in the front. Love to learn how you overcome awkward moments and unlock the real emotional stuff. First of all, I'll talk a lot about all of this in the Filming Life Academy. I would love for you to join me there, but I have a whole course on like client prep and client management. But a lot of that comes down to prep, to be honest. It's so much about just preparing the clients. I have a client session guide, which I have as a template in Filming Life that you can use, and all of my wording is in there, and you can use that to send out to your clients that will help prepare them for this type of session. And I think that goes a long way to helping overcome the awkwardness. I also don't shy away from it. When we get there, I'm like, hey guys, this is going to be weird to begin with. But then trust me, you'll adjust, you'll get used to it. And they do. A lot of times I think it really is our energy and what we bring to the session that helps them overcome some of that. Because if we're feeling anxious about it, they're going to feel anxious about it. And so you have to really focus on your own mindset before you get there. And that really makes a big difference. How do you get such stable long shots? I find I'm much more jerky when the shots get longer. Good question. A lot of that is practice, and I think I often will not use the camera strap anymore because I'm so used to doing it. And I find it gets in the way a lot of times. So I don't have that like tension in the camera strap that I always recommend you do when you first start. So what I do instead is I tuck my elbows in and I really engage my core. And I think honestly, like having the elbows tucked in and being really like stiff in your upper body can help make the long shots a lot more stable, but use something to lean on if you can. In the FilmingLife membership, do you show a lot of editing walkthroughs with efficient workflows for editing? I'm self-taught at this point and would love to streamline my process. Also, what program is used? Yes. So I have a full behind the scenes of me editing a family film, and I have a 10-step post-processing workflow, which is a PDF that you can download, and it takes you like step by step. You can print it out and follow that along the way. And it does use Premiere Pro. So that's the program that I use, but a lot of the storytelling and the thought process behind why I choose to edit the way that I do is transferable across both programs. So while I don't teach in DaVinci, there's much that you can use in DaVinci. A lot of the magic of what I do comes from why I choose to put this clip after this clip and this clip after this clip, right? It's a lot of it. I feel like it's almost like art in a way. It's like a painting. Everyone can have the same tool, and at the end of the day, all it is a tool. So it's how you then use that then creates that final end painting. That's what I'm teaching at FilmingLife. It's how you get to that story at the end. When you say with your mirrorless, you're using autofocus instead of manual lens focus, do you lock focus on something in camera, or do you use auto tracking? Are you tapping on the screen during filming to move the focus point? All of those things. Sometimes I will lock focus with back button focus to begin with, and then just let the camera track from there. I'll have eye tracking on. I've played around with like in Fuji, there's like animal tracking. So I'll have, because there's not people tracking, there's like animal tracking. I'll put it on cat. And I've played around with like sometimes like a wide zone tracking is better, or like sometimes a smaller zone tracking is better. It just really depends on the situation and what's happening. And then, yeah, sometimes I'll hold and tap, but that's very hard to keep stable. So sometimes I'll hold with my left hand and tap with my right hand. It's a very awkward sort of thing that's happening when you do that. Why Fuji and not Sony? Because it was cheaper, truthfully, no other reason. I will say I did use a Sony a7 III for a while, and I had this lens that was amazing. It was a Z35, I think it was a 1.4, and it was amazing. And sometimes I'll look at the photos that I took with that and I was like, God, I wish I had that again. But I sold it, and I sold it for a reason. I didn't fall in love with it. I didn't like how it felt, all the things. So I just didn't. It's cheap and yeah, heavy, just as heavy. Like it wasn't any lighter, whereas Fuji is so much lighter. It's ridiculous. Do you use a special lens filter always on your lenses when filming? No, I do not. I have two cameras that I shoot with, a Canon R6 and a Canon 5D Mark IV. I would like to offer both photo and video. Can I still do that with my mirrorless, or should I shoot photos on the mirrorless and video on the 5D? Just asking because you mentioned it's harder to switch back and forth between photo and video on the mirrorless. Oh, I don't know. The benefits and ease of shooting video on the mirrorless, I think, outweighs the ability to do both. You do get quicker at it the more that you do it. And on the R series, it's just button to switch between the two. So it's not too bad, but it's just not the same as like flicking a switch. And then you do have to make sure that your settings are the right are what they should be. I just would, I don't know. I think that's something you got to play with. That's a hard question for me to answer for you. Beware of Viltrox, Courtney. Check the focusing distance, sometimes really high. While they're 35 and 50 and they're good lenses, but I had to stay too far away from my taste. Good to know. I will check that out. Can you talk to the benefit of joining the Filming Life Academy when you're not in the client business? I have lots of little kiddos, not the time for me to form a business, but I do want to document my own family. I worry about finding the time to film and make the videos, and also the cost when I don't have clients helping fund my hobby. I did love the point that you say to film it and then make the film right away. That's a really good question, and I can completely understand. We do have a lot of people that are in Filming Life that are not shooting clients. And I guess it's just a matter of, like, for yourself, is it something that you want to invest in for yourself? And is it something that I think that being in Filming Life would help kind of with that accountability side of things and just keeping you motivated and moving forward with it? Because I think it's very easy to let, when you have little kids, for life to get in the way and to not make the time to focus on documenting your family. I think it's something that in 5 years' time, being a part of Filming Life and having that push to create something will be not only beneficial for you and your own mental health, but will also be something that your kids and you will look back on in 10, 15, 20, 30 years time and be so freaking thankful that you did. Because what we do is we have Art House, which is a project that gives you a theme and it gives you something to work on and work towards. And you're learning something at the same time as practicing and trying new skills. And a lot of the people that are involved in that are not in business. Some of them use it for client work and it helps you in client work, but a lot of them are also doing it for their own families as well as client work, or just for their own families. And so I think it's beneficial in those ways, but you have to be ready to want to invest in that for yourself and make your own self-growth in that way a priority. So, you know, it's completely up to you for that. I had a look at Music Bed and really like it, but $100 a month is a lot. Is there a cheaper option? Yeah. Soundstripe, Artlist. There's a lot of other options for music out there that are not as expensive as Music Bed, things that are super affordable and that also have really good music. How often does Filming Life intake happen? Just deciding if I sign up now or in a quieter time in my business. Christmas got me bananas busy. It's only closed at the moment because I was just sorting out what I'm planning for next year. And I didn't want to have enrollment open while I was doing that. But starting in January, I'm going to be offering what's called Focus Learning, and it's going to be weekly calls with me, and you can join at the start of the term. It runs in my kids' school terms, so it'll be from like I think it's about 10 weeks in total for the first term. And so it'll be weekly calls, and we'll be going through the Filming Life 101 course, and we'll just be covering topics from that every week. And it'll be a call like this, and you can come with questions, and there'll be accountability as a part of it. And you can opt in or not be a part of it either way. And it's no extra cost. So I just wanted to have all of that in place before I reopened membership, and I'll be reopening. My plan is once I reopen at the end of this month, then it'll be open after that. Like, I don't plan on opening and closing. And we'll see how that goes. That's not necessarily a promise that it'll always be, but we'll just see how it goes. How will Filming Life Academy help me as a professional photographer that doesn't know much about filming? It takes you all the way through from beginning to, I don't even want to say end, because there is no end. You're like, well, I'm always learning. But if you have, all of my courses are designed for photographers in mind. So I'm coming at it from an understanding, like, I know what it's like as a photographer. So I'm going to tell you things in a language that you're going to understand. And as a professional photographer, this is what I do. Bringing video into my professional photography business. That's what I've done. And so I would say that it will help you learn how to add in video to your business, whether it's just an additional tool as a part of your business or whether it becomes the main part of your business. We have filmmaking classes, and we also have business focused classes. So we have marketing and pricing, portfolio building classes. So if you get to the point where you're making family films and you decide that you want to make that a part of your business, we have all of the steps, all of the courses there for you to go through and work through. You don't use an ND filter when filming. I do not. I have in the past. I don't bother because I just tend to, I personally, the way that I shoot, I'm often inside and outside a lot. So there are times where I've wished that I had an ND filter. Don't get me wrong. If you're wondering what an ND filter is, it's a neutral density filter. It reduces the amount of light that's coming into your camera. And what that does is it allows you to have a lower shutter speed. I just don't worry about the shutter speed too much because I'm making films for families. Like, I'm just not concerned about it. And so there are definitely times where I wish I had one, but sometimes having one on can make it a little bit more difficult when you're moving between low light and high, like bright light. So what I'll do instead is just bring my aperture right up and stuck down the light that's coming in that way. So I don't use an ND filter. Doesn't mean you shouldn't. You should if you want to, okay? Did anyone catch what Courtney said about focus tracking? Bubby was crying, okay. Okay. Do you ever use a gimbal, or do you find that to be too impersonal in the environment? Yeah, I don't use a gimbal because I think that that's too much. I want to be able to switch to photos really easily, and if I'm on a gimbal, I can't do that. When traveling and for personal videos, do you think GoPro and iPhone are a decent substitute? Yes. For SLRs or mirrorless cameras? I do, for sure. Absolutely. When traveling and for personal videos, 100%. You know what? We have someone in FilmingLife who is making client films with her iPhone. So, and they're good. So, yes. Yeah, amazing, Lacey. Awesome. I hope you join. Okay. Please can we get a rewatch of Miss the Whole Thing because of Mom Life? I would love to see more of what you teach in the course. Could this be useful for learning commercial filming, or are there other providers that would be more appropriate for that? For commercial filming, really depends. It depends so much these days, to be honest, because if you're talking like high-end commercial filming where they want you to bring a drone and they want you to have a 3-camera setup and they want you doing interviews with 20 people, then this course is not for you. I don't teach any of that. It's not what I do. But there are a lot of commercial businesses, small businesses and large businesses that are really embracing the more personable, human, relatable storytelling of what we do. And 100%, there are brands out there that are just like itching to get the type of work that we do. So where we have an advantage in that way is that a lot of the videographers out there and the commercial videographers are putting together more polished work. So if you position yourself as someone who creates incredible stories that are human and relatable, then you have a very good position to be able to pitch yourself towards any type of business. And what FilmingLife will teach you, although yes, I'm covering families and yes, I'm working with families, what I'm teaching you through all of this is storytelling. and it's humanity and it's that relatability. So you can take what you learn from Filming Life and apply it in so many different ways. And when it comes to a business, telling the story of a business or telling the story of a human behind the business, or, you know, tapping into the marketing and the reason why someone would buy their product, that's where what we do has a massive advantage over the more polished cranes and drones and high-end commercial videos that you see out there. So for that reason, yes, I think it can be useful, but it depends on what angle you're coming at it from. Oh, Jennifer said it makes the storytelling aspect, makes her commercial work so much better than the next videographer. 100%. Do you think it's okay to showcase storytelling films for personal and commercial content on your website and social media, or keep it separate? Really just, I think that on your social media, you can have everything all together, but I think for a website, you want your website to represent who's landing on it and what they're looking for. So I think that I would just be careful about your mindful about your website messaging. And for that reason, I would probably have separate websites for commercial versus families. And although I know that's a pain, but it's going to make it easier when you're working with clients. Do you ever shoot in log or mainly standard? I shoot in log a lot. I had a lot of people ask me for a color grading course, and so I created a whole new color grading course in the Filming Life Academy, and I teach you why color grading is important, what in camera it means exactly to be shooting in log, what the benefits, what the pros and cons are of that, and then how to edit that. So I have shot in log, I shoot in log, and I shoot in standard. I shoot in neutral. I'll shoot in whatever picture profile makes sense for that project. Shooting in log means you're spending more time editing in post. If you can get it right in camera, you don't need to shoot in log. And a lot of people will tell you, or a lot of videographers, filmmakers might say, you got to shoot in log. Shooting in log is like the only way you're going to get good color. And that's really not true. I think a lot of times that language comes from there's two reasons why you might shoot in log. I think the language comes from videographers who don't have a background in photography, so don't already like have that very good solid ability to get things right in camera. If you can get it right in camera, you don't need log, unless you want to drastically change the colors of your footage, in which case shooting in log is an advantage. The other place and time where shooting in log is an advantage is when it's a really contrasty environment. So if you've got really dark, deep shadows and high contrast highlights, then shooting in log can be beneficial for that. But there's also downsides to shooting in log. So I talk about a lot of that in my course. And these days on the Fuji, I actually like editing that footage in log. So I am shooting in log. So there you go. I like editing F-log footage better than C-log footage. Isn't that funny? Okay. Do you teach how to shoot in log? And also, why would you not shoot in log every time? I do teach how to shoot in log. And why would you not shoot in log? Because if I don't want to spend the time editing it, like color grading it, because if you shoot in log, basically, you're getting a really flat picture when you bring it into your editing software. And so then after that, all you're doing is adding contrast back in. Essentially, that's all. Literally, that's all you're doing. You're adding contrast back in and like bringing the color saturation back. So if you can do that in camera, why do that in post? You're just adding extra work. That's just my thoughts anyway. Do you find converting your films to vertical or keeping landscape is more successful for engagement and getting people excited for Instagram sharing? I will convert them to vertical for Instagram, yes. But I only if I'm sharing like short bits. If I'm sharing a whole film, I keep it landscape. But if I'm doing like short clips, I'll do it vertical. But you have to be mindful because sometimes, like if you're getting fancy with your camera compositions, then and they're not mostly centered, then having it vertical is like, well, where are we supposed to be looking? Because you like miss what the focus is supposed to be on. So just be mindful of that. You can edit that and you can convert it for that, but it's kind of a pain. Depends on how much time you have. When I've tried to shoot in auto, I can hear my lens focusing in post. Is that eliminated or dulled if I were to use an off-camera mic? That's your lens. And unfortunately, that's a downside of some lenses. Some lenses, even mirrorless lenses, are noisy, but some lenses are like silent. It's just the lens. Unfortunately, I'm really sorry about that. That is a really annoying part. When I Google and do reviews on lenses before I buy a lens, I'm like, how noisy is the 50 millimeter, whatever? Like, I want to know about what the noise is like, and it's hard to find that information out sometimes. Sometimes you don't find out until you get it. But I do like a lot of times if you put music over it, you don't hear it as much. And the mic does help a little, but not a lot. Not enough anyway. If my lens is noisy, then I'm going to be manually focusing with it, unfortunately. Have I shot storytelling films for commercial clients? Do they hire me based on my family films website? Actually, yeah, I've had quite a few commercial shoots based off of my website because generally an agency that contacts me is contacting me because they're looking for something different. They're looking for something that's more organic, storytelling, relatable, especially if it's like a brand that focuses on families. That's how I've gotten a lot of my commercial work. And then I'll also get it from just the fact that I can do both. So I've been hired to shoot photos on the set of a commercial because I was experienced with both. So, and they knew that I could be that fly on the wall type of photographer and get whatever the cinematographers were getting. So I've been hired to do that. And I've been hired on the flip side to do video for as a side thing for a photo shoot for a children's fashion brand before. So the focus was not me directing the clients or directing the shoot. The focus was the photographer and she was directing the shoot. And it was my job to get footage of the kids in the clothing like separate and in between her photos. So I've been hired for both for different reasons, and it's all been off of my family films website. For me, commercial work is not a priority or a thing I'm chasing. So it's usually just something that falls into my lap because people will find me and look at that and then they'll hire me based on that. But if I was really chasing it, I would create a whole separate website for it. But I do have like a thing I can send to people if they ask for experience of work. But yeah, several times I've been on commercial shoots where the focus has been on like creating a commercial and I just shoot stills alongside. Do I shoot 4K? Yes and no. The last 2 films that I've made, yes. Prior to that, no. So I'm experimenting with it. Yes, I'm shooting it. And I'm shooting it and now I'm using proxies. So because the files are bigger. Something to note about editing. Editing 4K is much more labor intensive on your computer. Okay, you guys, thank you. I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all of the great questions. I would really love for you to join me in FilmingLife. It would be so amazing to have you in there. I've sent the link. I will email it to you as well. I will think about, I will consider the recording. I will consider it. Okay. I get it. Your mom's, I understand. So leave that with me, and thank you all for being here, and it's been lovely. I'll see you next time. Hopefully I will see you in Filming Life.